Hello. Here we have, here it is, the Trinity is represented. What is the purpose of this video? To show that God the Father here cannot dwell in heaven. First of all, I should make it clear that God the Father of Jesus, is the Almighty God. They are exactly the same God. Only the name differs. Why? Very simple, because this is repeatedly stated by Jesus. Jesus says a lot of times, "My Father is God." Very simple. Here we have two examples of that taken from the Gospels of Matthew and John. In the third paragraph, if you still have remaining doubts, you can see that the Father is really Almighty. He is really the Almighty God, because he only knows the date of the end of the world. This is, as I said before, I will show here that the Father of Jesus, who is the Almighty God for logical reasons, cannot dwell in heaven. He dwells, we could say, somewhere else. You see, if the Almighty God were in heaven, this would end up with an absurd situation. To explain what would happen, I make an example here using the known event of Jesus being baptized in the river of Jordan. Let's assume that the event will take place on Sunday, a nice day. Here is what the three Gospels tell us about that event. Of course, at most, only one of them can be fully correct and report the actual words that have been used by God. But there are only very small differences. For our example, we now focus on the first two Gospels. You see that there is only a tiny irrelevant difference. You can see in red, this is and thou art. They are practically the same. They are equivalent. Now is a Saturday, and the Almighty God is in heaven. What happens there? Simply that God, like always, knows the future, of course. He knows that the day after, on Sunday, he will speak the sentence, for example, according to the Gospel of Matthew. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Till now, everything seems perfectly normal. There is no surprise. What happens on Sunday? On Sunday, God, as predicted by him, he is expected to say the sentence according to Matthew. And this is still normal. But now, very surprisingly, we have huge problems. What problems? Now God on Sunday is no longer free to say anything different from Matthew's. He is not free to say whatever he likes, as we are. For example, if he wanted to, it would be impossible to change his mind and switch to the equivalent Marx sentence. Why? Because this would kill his divine infallibility. Because his prediction that was made on Saturday must absolutely hold. Saying anything different from Matthew's is now forbidden and impossible to God. He hasn't got the power to even change a comma of it. This because the future must be absolutely respected. Is terrible. This means that on Sunday God is not free and not able to do whatever he likes. And those are the conditions required to be Almighty. In other words, on Sunday he is not Almighty with the two L's and or omnipotent anymore. Of course, God, on the contrary, must be always Almighty. He must always be able to say whatever he likes without restriction. Why this all happens? This is due to the God's power to see exactly the future. It only looks like a positive power, but on the contrary, it kills your freedom and you become a slave of it, as we saw in the example. And what is the solution of this problem? Because of course God has also a solution to that. Well, this is why God and we need the Trinity. By means of the Trinity, the negative effects of the power to see the future are neutralized, and God remains Almighty. But he is, we could say, somewhere else. Where is he? Below this video you can read where the Almighty God really is and why. I can anticipate that the Almighty God dwells in the past, but from there he is perfectly active. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.